Okay. Special guest. She's back. Woo. This should be a barnstorm of a show. I got Starheal. Amy is in the house. Whew, the last 72 hours have been pretty exciting for different reasons. First things first. Can you speak to the recent passing of OJ? Because you had a tweet, and even I was like, "Damn, that's cold. That's a cold tweet." So
Yeah, I was looking up. I was wanted to do a TikTok on OJ and Nicole Brown's synastry, and I
okay.
started looking up and the transits that were happening the date of the crime. And I started looking, and I was like, oh, Saturn was at 12, 13 degrees Pisces. And I was like, wait, where's Saturn at now? And I was like, well, 14 degrees. I was like, that's right, coming back around to the Saturn return of where it was the day of the crime. So I thought that was really crazy
Wow.
because
And
Saturn return is all about karma.
okay.
Yeah.
So that's definite. Anytime you see that in somebody's chart, you already know what time it is. Like that's a foregone conclusion at that point.
Yeah. If you haven't been playing by the rules, so to
Okay.
speak, according to
Gotcha.
society, because Saturn's more about, rules and norms and that sort of thing, the status quo. But yeah, if you've been doing something, outside the lines that you shouldn't have been doing and you know better, Saturn usually will come and slap you on the hand or at least make you aware or you'll feel that karma somehow.
Wow. Okay. I think yeah, you're probably the only one of the few people that could actually get break this part down. Now, I've said, if you're not spiritually weak, or if you're a spiritually weak, emotionally weak person, you got some underlying trauma issues. You should not be playing or dabbling in the arts. Um, but you, with the psychology background, you know more than I. Um, how does one know that they have these issues before getting into the practices? That's the first thing. Secondly, um, no, take that question first. How does one identify if they got issues and before they get into this?
Well, I think it's a little difficult because I feel like a lot of people who have these issues may not have a lot of self awareness.
Okay.
But as far as a lot of times people who are very, I don't want to say everyone, but if you're going down the rabbit hole with a lot of different conspiracy theories and getting really paranoid and fearful and you're experiencing those types of feelings, then this like astrology tarot is not for you because you're going to have too much anxiety
Okay.
that and fear.
Would you say the average person that gets into the arts, the practices, are they more times than not a non traumatic person to a certain extent, or they don't let the traumas overwhelm them?
Yeah, I think they've learned how to handle it. A lot of people who get in this work have had already gone through like a dark night of the soul experience
Okay.
and kind of healed from that and come out of that. And that's how they've emerged to this place where they can kind of help others and spread wisdom type of thing. So I would say most people, that's the course it would take.
Okay.
But for people who aren't, like that, I feel like the person we're talking about, I don't feel like she was even an astrologer. I just feel like she used that as a way to gain approval and people's attention because I know she didn't know, she wasn't well versed in astrology.
Okay. I want to say that for the next segment.
Yeah, I kind of skipped
No, no, no,
out,
no,
but
no. I
yeah.
appreciate that. So, would you say that different arts affect people differently on different type of emotional and spiritual levels, or is it just safe to say they all could pretty much drive somebody crazy if allotted enough time and enough issues with the practitioner?
Yeah, I think all of them could. I mean, even when I started with astrology, when I first began studying astrology, there was a period of time where I was very kind of sketched out. Like I was scared, like didn't go places. And this lasted for like 1 week or 2 weeks. And I was just really like fearful. And I was like, this is not good. And if you're at that place, then I would caution you against, really getting into this, because it shouldn't be scary. But a lot of times it is normal to feel like, whoa, like this is real. You know what I mean? So, in some regards, it can be scary. But if you're constantly just all the time fearful and have anxiety about it and are paranoid, then with all of the spiritual practices, I think it's a good idea to just kind of not get too deep.
What do you think the attraction is mainly? Even though historically it's always been looked up, frowned upon, even cost people their lives. What do you think the initial attraction is from regular folk to the arts?
Like for people who are getting into
Yeah,
the
yeah, yeah, yeah,
spiritual realm,
yeah.
I think it's a way maybe for them to have feel some sort of control over their life, or find some sort of meaning, which I feel like a lot of people, turn to spirituality for that too. So I don't know if they're any different from maybe the normal person, but I will say that I feel like there are people who use spirituality as a way to gain clout and attention and narcissistic supply.
Uh, I think I've asked you this the last time we spoke. Are you, even with this tragedy, are you currently happy with the amount of attention the arts are getting? Me personally, I don't like it because this stuff is supposed to be in the background. Um, do you like what you're seeing now? You guys are becoming basically celebrities in a, in a nutshell. If that's bad or good or bad to you.
Yeah, so that's the thing. When you ask that question, a lot of people are attracted to it now for the reason of they think they can, make a name for themselves. Um, I think that it's both. I mean, I got on Twitter because I wanted people to learn about astrology and know astrology. But I've found that because of the people out there who, can just say whatever they want and people will believe them, it's become really hard to discern who's real, who's not, who has knowledge, who doesn't. Yeah. So it makes it hard for just the regular person because they don't really know the difference between, you know what I mean? They just kind of go on what, maybe sounds good sometimes. Um, but I think that it has gotten a little bit too, like, it's not being taken seriously enough or
Okay.
held in more. This stuff is very sacred and should be kind of taken seriously. I feel like people play around too much.
Mhm. So, how would the consumer go about differentiating who's sincere, who's not, who has the mental fortitude to do this? What would what flags or what signs would you give the content consumers ways to kind of maneuver around the influx of I guess celebrity practitioners?
Well, like in astrology, there are certain things, and I talk about this, like people who only talk about the signs and never go deeper with things and can't explain why they say certain things when they're questioned. That's one way. But also with like certain people, I feel like just some of their comments might be so off that it would cause some people pause, I would think. Um, but I think it's just really hard because people don't know astrology. It's a whole different language. So, you know what I mean? When people are speaking a different language, it's like they could say anything and they tell you what it means and you just go because you trust them.
Mhm.
That's, the thing. People trust people that are supposedly spiritual in a position like that. So it's really hard to differentiate.
Have you noticed that astrology has kind of jumped to the forefront it used to be so rarely ever mentioned back in the day. Now all of a sudden that's the first thing everybody kind of points to or kind of gravitates towards. Are you surprised that it's pretty much leading the pack of the arts per se?
No, because astrology is has always given you a lot of information about yourself. And I feel like people really want to know more about themselves. And so I think astrology gives you that more than the other practices, but it is annoying that so many people are into astrology but have really no idea what they're talking about and are just, I would say 90% of people are just really misguided. So, it's good that people are accepting of it, but they don't really know what they're dealing with because
So,
of all the like stuff out there that's so like superficial.
gotcha. So over the years you've been doing this, you've come across a lot of personalities, and I'm sure you've had many questions about them. Um, Out of those that you had questions about over the years, how many were you right about?
Well, I haven't questioned too many people, but I would say this one I was right about, and there's one other person, and I'm pretty sure I'm right about that person too, just because their behavior was identical to this, has been identical to this person. How they were to me has been
Okay.
identical, this, and the steps they took. Um, so I wouldn't say I've been right about a lot of people because I haven't really spoken out. I've only spoken out really against two people, I
Okay.
think.
Okay.
So yeah.
Okay. Without naming names, have you done the second person's chart to see if when the crash out's coming or no?
No, I know the birth date, but I,
Okay.
haven't looked it up.
Okay. So let's get to why you're here. Take us back to when you had dealings with her, interactions with her. How was it? Where did it go wrong in your opinion? And how did we get here?
So my interaction started with her in 2014 when I first got on Twitter, and we were both kind of starting out in like the spiritual community. And it wasn't really big like it is now. It wasn't super saturated. Like you kind of found other people that, were interested in the same thing. And I don't really recall how we got to be friends, but we just kind of like interacted and became, Twitter friends or whatever. And we even talked on the phone some. She was starting her Reiki business. She asked me for like a recommendation, and I like helped her some. And we were just Twitter friends, just kind of like, like minded on like in astrology, into spirituality, that sort of thing. But then like a year into everything, I also remember when she had her daughter, the oldest one. I remember when she was pregnant. I remember when she had her, and I think I bought her a present. So we were, it wasn't just like, hey, I mean, I was like, knew about her life. Um, and then I remember this clearly. I was at the beach with my parents. It was 2015, and she goes, texts me or messages me, I can't remember, and she's like, "You've been talking about me with other people," and I was seriously like, "I have no idea what you're talking about. Like, I haven't been talking about you, you know." And she was like, "Well, I just don't believe you. I'm gonna have to block you." And I was like, "Okay." And I remember being upset about this because I was like, "Wow, what did I do wrong?" Because I'm a Libra rising. Like, I don't want people mad at me. And she then, like a couple of days later, she was like, I heard you and Brie Luna and Mary Masana, they were out then. I don't know if people know them, Young Kundalini and Mary Masana's, that's her name now, but it used to be That Girl Has, have been, conspiring against me. And I'm like, literally, we haven't talked about you at all. Nothing's happening. But ever since then she just like didn't talk to me anymore. And then she started doing astrology, which was weird because she never was into astrology before. And all of a sudden she was just like, I'm an astrologer now. So I had a problem with that. She stole people's content. And she was turned into kind of a con. And I knew she was a con because I knew her before she was doing this.
Okay.
So I did kind of call it out. And then through that, then she just really like hated me after that. And I guess she had some things to say about me. Someone wrote me in 2019 that she had tried to tell him he should kill himself because I think he was gay or something like that, and she did magic on me and other people and wished us harm. And I posted the tweet, the screenshot of the tweet, and I said, if you're still following, and I literally said demon, then that's on you or something like that, and then posted what she had said, because that's just like telling someone to kill themselves is really insane.
Hmm.
Um, but somehow that situation got flipped around on me, and I was the one that somehow got, hurt by, lost the followers, got the, oh, there's a bee. Oh my God. This is her coming back right now. I'm just kidding. Lost the followers, that sort of thing. And that was really, really hard. And then in 2020, she said some really negative, really bad things about me that, was pretty much could have destroyed my livelihood.
Okay.
Um, and she has messed with it. And she's messed with, I mean, my like actual financial, like eating livelihood. She has hurt that.
Hmm.
But also psychologically, emotionally, she's done damage as well. How we got here, I'm not super sure. Um, I did not consume any of her content or ever go to her page or look at anything she was saying. So I didn't know that, she was tweeting out all these things. But, I do remember when she was doing astrology, her tweets were really super negative, and people were like, oh, she's reading us. Like, that's so cool. And I was like, this really isn't like good astrology. This is kind of low vibrational.
Hmm.
So she already was kind of on that level, but how we got here, I have no idea. And again, when I knew her, she was already exhibiting some of those paranoid kind of attitudes by like thinking I was conspiring against her and talking about her, and it was like no reality to that.
Even as tragic as the situation is, do you somewhat feel vindicated though? Like, hey, no, I told y'all she was batshit crazy.
Um, I feel more at peace because
Oh,
I know she won't terrorize me anymore.
okay.
Because I
Wow.
know she did spell work on me, and who knows when she could have. I mean, I know that she has said things p- post 2020 about me that I haven't seen because she just uses my name. She doesn't mention me because she's blocked.
Okay.
But I've had people go back and go through my tweets that have been like had negative things in them, and her name has come up. And I have one I haven't even looked at on my phone that someone sent me. But so yeah, she was still talking about me post 2020 when I was really like, I just don't have want to have anything to do with this girl. I'm not mentioning her name. Just acting like she literally doesn't exist.
But
So
did the attacks somehow validate how good you are at your craft? Did at some point you say, you know what? Okay, obviously I'm doing something right. I gotta be this good for her to spend all this time and energy to go at me. Did you feel like that at some point at all?
yeah, a little bit. You mean did I feel vindicated that
Well,
being
was it like it's almost a backhanded compliment for someone to spend that much time and energy to be worried about you and to go after you and attack your business? I mean, in some regards, that is a compliment. It's a good thing to be like, okay, I guess I am worth all this. Did you feel that way at all during the attacks at all?
in some ways, yeah, I know where that's where a lot of them stem from, and it's like that. I don't know. I just didn't see anything good about
Okay.
it. It was really hard that was a really difficult time for me when that happened, in 2020. It literally was the turning point of my Twitter. As far as prior to that, I'd always gone to Twitter like uplifted and happy and thought it was a fun place and good way to connect and engage. And it turned into this is a place that I'm resentful of, I'm bitter towards, where people
Mm.
are nasty. Like that was the turning point. And that week that happened, I remember it was during COVID. I remember everything about it. And I remember being so upset, like crying. I thought she like ruined my life basically.
Okay.
And was going to have me canceled over something that was completely untrue and intentionally said to smear my name and hurt me. Um, so yeah, there wasn't really much good about that. I do feel like I am in some ways like, see, I told you to the astrology community because they always come at me like there's, I'm the one when it's like, I told you there was this person out there that was doing these abusive things and no one listened to me. You made it about something else. And now all these people I feel like have enabled her. Her audience enabled her,
Mm.
you know? And maybe that's why they don't want to hear the truth about, maybe why this happened, and are making a lot of excuses. But I mean, it didn't take the media long to read down her Twitter timeline to see that things weren't exactly right.
Right. Yeah. Um, those that knew her around the same time you met her, right, there's a couple people that I've noticed. Now they're all like, I can't believe this. How did this come? I can't believe she did it. And I'm like, so you saw signs, but they didn't, or did they just overlook certain behaviors because they were cool with her? How do you?
Probably because they were cool with her. Like when she did stuff to me, um, I mean, she's done things like call me and pretend to be like have someone call me and pretend to be someone else to get information about like my business and what I'm doing and like what's going on with me. She has well, I don't know if that was her, but I know for a fact she is like contacting me in like nefarious ways and kind of borderline, I mean, stalked. So this is how I knew because I had that personal experience because she didn't like me. Now, the other people she may have put on a different kind of face with.
Mhm.
But I know there were a lot of people that she was very rude to as well and didn't like. I don't know anyone as much as me, but um,
Okay. Um. Okay. I'm going through timelines, and I pretty much the consensus there. Pretty much everyone blames demon possession. Now, you have the background in psychology, and if my history serves me well, I know the history of Catholics. Before you talk demon possession, the first thing they want to do is send in a skeptic and be like, nah, that wasn't it. It was this chemical imbalance, or schizophrenic, or whatever the case may be. They'll do everything to dismiss the demon possession and find a logical, scientific reason for the person's behavior. Even floating in the air, still they're like, they use a lever or something. When you hear people blame demon possession, right? What does your background tell you? You don't subscribe to that. You just think this chick was just crazy and she got caught up in her own midst of practices. Is that how you see it, or no?
yeah, but I do see it as she had some form of evil to her as
Okay.
well. I don't know if that was possessed by demons.
Okay.
I mean, but there is something sinister there. Now, I think I'm not diagnosing anyone, but from my background in mental health and working with this population, she came across as being schizophrenic, paranoid, with exhibiting a lot of paranoia to
Okay.
me. And, you know, I don't know if that looks, most people who have schizophrenia aren't violent, but maybe if you pair it with someone who's already like into these dark kind of things and messing with these, because I do believe in dark energy and, these supernatural things like angels, and if there's angels, there's the opposite
Mm-hmm.
too.
Mm-hmm.
Um, so I do think there was some sort of evil, but to say that that's the reason, you could say that about everyone who does something like terrible, kill somebody, you
Right.
know? Like, what's the difference between her? Like, why wouldn't you know what I mean? Someone else could just say, oh, well, the demons overtook him. Well,
Hmm.
clearly he was doing something evil, something, was going on there. But it's also, I think, a mental thing as well.
So is this more or less like you said with OJ, her karma coming back on her, or did the eclipse actually played a part in this, or no? Or if you had to put out of 100%, what is the main reason you think she ran off the rails the way she did? Was it just internally? It was just her.
Um, I don't know. I don't know her karma. That I can't answer. I think that the eclipse maybe exacerbated some underlying tendencies that she had towards paranoia. And I think she just experienced maybe a psychotic break of some sort, which I doubt if that was the case. That wouldn't have probably been the first time it had
Hmm.
happened. Usually you don't experience your first psychotic break at 34. But,
Okay.
so she probably, in my opinion, I think she probably knew she had something going on and just didn't get it treated. That's what I think.
So
Because
around what?
go
Oh
ahead,
no,
sorry.
go ahead. No, no, I'm sorry. Good. No, finish. Go ahead.
Because, I just wanted to add on because a lot of people with that condition, like I said, are paranoid. So they don't want to take medication because they're like, oh, it's going to put a microchip in my brain. Do you know what I mean? Like that sort of energy. So
Mhm.
I think that she probably, like, she had to have on some level recognized that there was something going on, I think, but probably didn't think it was severe enough to get it treated.
What age does as a normal psychotic break take place?
It can vary. It can happen, I think, as young as like late teens to like early 30s. But 30 is pretty late. Usually it's around the 20s with
So if you're
someone that also has schizophrenia.
so if you're gonna have one, it's best to have it early and get it out the way, per se.
Well, if yeah, I guess it's better to know what you have and get treated. That way you will be in reality. You know what I mean? You won't be outside of reality having delusions and yeah.
So for those that do have psychotic breaks, if they get the treatment, is there still a chance it could happen again or express itself?
Yeah, I'm pretty sure that even with treatment, there's the potential for it to still happen. But typically, it happens when the patient or whoever goes off their medication. That's when they will start hearing voices,
Okay.
commands to do things. I mean, then to them, it's reality.
Okay. Well, what's
Yeah.
throwing me off with her is the use of violence, basically from start to finish. And so I ask you, had she gotten treatment, would the violence have expressed itself in a different form or fashion?
Oh, that's hard to say, but I will say I did some research about this before I came on, and they said that people who are schizophrenic
Mhm.
are more like the method of homicide. A lot of times can be seen. There's an association by disorders and method of homicide,
Okay.
and for schizophrenia, the typical what they tend to see is sharp objects being
Okay.
used as a method of homicide.
Wow.
For depression, it was like asphyxiation. I
Okay.
can't remember them all, but for schizophrenia, it was sharp objects. So I don't know if it would have expressed itself differently or not as far as the violence. But I mean, yeah, it was pretty, it's gruesome.
So clearly she was undiagnosed for most of her life.
She had to have been.
And I forget what the numbers are, but the majority of people do have some type of undiagnosed mental illness. Um,
Yeah.
okay. And
I've been depressed before. I've been on, psychopharmaceuticals, I mean, it's not uncommon. But yeah, I mean, go ahead. I just wanted to put that out
oh
there.
no, but is that stigma of being undiagnosed? Because most people don't think there's nothing wrong with them. And even if someone said,
Right.
"Hey, I think you got," and it's almost offensive to to suggest to people, I think you're mentally unwell. So,
Yeah.
okay, how do we change that stigma of making it cool to say, hey, you know what? I need help. I need a mental health day. I'm starting to see now in certain um, jobs where they'll give you a mental health day, no questions asked. But that's just one day off. That doesn't fix the problem.
Right. Well, I think if people stop looking at it as labels, instead of saying like I'm bipolar or that you have schizophrenia or what have you, if they just looked at it, like, okay, when you have a heart condition, you take medication because you're born, your heart doesn't beat properly. So to live a normal life, you're going to need to take medication. And I just feel like if people realize, like, I was born this way, my brain just doesn't make enough of this chemical, like for whatever reason. So I need to take medicine to make my brain normal.
Mhm.
And if they just think of it like a physical condition instead of so much like something's wrong with them inherent, you know what I mean? If they thought of it more like that, I think that people would be more willing to get treatment, knowing that, hey, this medication is not here to, it's just here to help you live a normal life.
But how much has media played into that? Because I still think about people in padded rooms and straight jackets. Even though it's that should not be the norm, but I will have a flash with somebody in a street. I mean, Quiet Riot had Ronnie James Dio, the front cover in a straight jacket, mask, in the padded room. I think media does not has not helped the image of those that are mentally unwell or that need help. Um, oof. Hmm. I was going somewhere with this
And
and
the
I lost my
system
train.
in and of itself just doesn't help people,
Okay.
and I feel like like where I'm from originally, it's a very rural area. And there's just not that many psychiatrists around,
Mhm.
to help these people. I feel like a lot of people have that to deal with, also. But
So
yeah, I think the media stereotypes and, people, the labels definitely turn people off from wanting to get help.
So if we agree that the majority of people are undiagnosed, is it safe to assume that the average or the majority of practitioners too are also undiagnosed?
I wouldn't say the majority of people are undiagnosed. I feel like most people who have schizophrenia have probably, mm, you they've gotten to a place in their life where it's caused them enough trouble that they've had to like face that, whether it be the law, or usually it is the law.
Hmm.
Um, but I feel like most people are diagnosed. But yeah, I think that in practitioners, there's the same. I think there are people that are in positions of leadership who are very respected, who have narcissistic personality disorder. So yeah, I think it can go both ways.
Okay.
But I feel like most people with severe mental illness that would maybe do something to this level wouldn't have been able to get through their whole life without something coming up that they're, turned a light on for them.
Okay. So now I'm gonna pick at the clinician side of you. So in regards to the 9-year-old daughter, okay,
Okay.
I'm of the ilk that because people are like, well, maybe she should go to the dad. I'm like, the dad is nowhere near equipped to help this child process. I think the child would be better off with the state because of the resources, the facilities, 24-hour treatment, whatever the case may be. You as a with your background in psychology, what would you think to be the best course of action for the 9-year-old that has witnessed all this literally in the span of, a day?
Yeah, that's hard to say because I don't know the father and how close their relationship was or what have you. But I will say that yeah, she's gonna need a lot of help. I mean, she went through something that is unthinkable, and at such a young age, I can't imagine how difficult it is for her to even process this. It's gonna affect her the rest of her life. undoubtedly.
In all areas, all aspects, you think?
I mean, I think people are resilient,
Okay,
and
right.
especially
Children,
children. I
yes.
think they're more resilient than a lot of people think. And I think that she probably will, be able to overcome this, but I think it's gonna, there are always gonna be some residual. Your mom tried to throw you out of the car, like, that has to you have to, be like, "What's wrong with me?" or
Hmm.
"Did I do something?" I mean, she's gonna have those type of feelings, and to know that the person who you thought loved you the most and who you loved the most could do that, that has to really, that probably has some really strong implications for her, future relationships, especially.
So when we deal with people that have gone through events to where a family member has tried to harm them, what are the usual protocols to help them kind of get back on track and say, hey, it wasn't your fault. These are the steps we're going to use to kind of rectify that and kind of help rewire you to the point where you don't think love means they're going to take me out or whatever the case may be. Can you speak to that at all?
Actually, I can't because I'm not sure exactly the steps, and especially not with a
Okay.
child. Um, yeah, I don't know enough to answer that one.
Okay. Um, this break she had, do you have an idea of how long it may have exhibited itself and no one said anything? Because this is, like I said, it's pretty extreme, pretty for most out the blue. But there had to have been warning signs, even a few flare ups beforehand. And maybe they're kind of keeping that quiet, or it hasn't been discovered yet. Which one do you think?
I think there have probably been some flare-ups beforehand. Like I said, I didn't follow her content, so I can't say, but like the media went through her page and was like she was into pretty much every conspiracy theory there was. She was kind of paranoid about a lot of things. I know that she made like comments that the media said that were anti-Semitic and said that Jewish people were pedophiles. I mean, just like kind of off the wall stuff. And I'm questioning her audience right
Okay.
now
Okay.
because you're going to see the tweet apocalypse retweet now, or whose side are you on, and you're not going to pause and you're going to retweet that, you know what I mean? And
Hmm.
so I have a lot of questions for her audience because I feel like they enabled her in a lot of ways, and I'm not blaming them, but I don't know why no one like called this out. Or maybe they did, I don't know, but I just feel like, it was to the point where someone could have said something. At least, I mean, I don't know, maybe someone did message her and like, "Are you okay?" I don't know, but I would think that someone would have said something.
But yeah, and to your point, like the video you sent me, I see a lot of rest in peace for her, and I see very few mentions for the child, and I'm like, why are you wishing her to rest? This
No
woman,
mentions for the boyfriend.
okay, even more so. Why do you think that is?
I don't know. I think it's weird and kind of pathetic because this person's not a victim. And like I said, I think maybe they don't want to admit they followed someone and took advice from someone who was psychotic
Hmm.
on at least a low level, by thinking people are out to get her, by like having all these hate conspiracies, this, that, and the other. I mean, it might have been enough to live life, but it should have been enough to set off some alarms in the general public.
Okay, so now that media has picked up on this, the first thing is the first word is astrologer, and
Right.
everybody's title is first word is astrologer. Such and so did this. And this. Um, does this concern you, or you're like, you know what, we'll get past this. This won't be a black eye on astrology per se.
um I was like, ugh, oof, you know what I mean,
Okay.
like that sort of thing.
Yeah.
But first of all, she wasn't an astrologer. Well, she wasn't. But yeah, I felt like it'll get past it. But yeah, that was definitely the first thing, that was astrology, astrology, astrology. And I did see comments like, of course, they're all crazy. And so I don't think it helps the perception of people who are kind of don't know anything about astrology.
Oh,
But,
well,
yeah,
especially
but
the religious community that read a certain book that thinks it's all soothsayers and okay, so you're never going to win that battle per se. But do you think to the average consumer or one that even wants to get into this, you think this may give them pause to a certain extent?
yes, I do. And I say that because I've gotten messages from people who have said, I've started going back. And in fact, this was just 30 minutes ago. I got a DM from someone saying, this has made me go back and look at other astrologers and what they're saying.
Okay.
And there's this girl, and she told me a little bit about her. And she was like, and she's saying that 2024 is the end of the world, that we should all be prepared. She was like, "What do you think about this?" And I said, "I think you should probably stop consuming that content, or, be very careful what you take seriously, because, yeah, if no one knows when the end of the world is coming, for one thing, you're not some special person. That's the way I see it. Like, for them to think they know when the end of the world is coming,
Right.
that right in and of itself should be you know, a, a red flag.
If one is dating or married to a potential schizophrenic, what are the red or the signs, flags, behaviors one should look out for?
Well, definitely the paranoia, the delusional thinking, just not being in touch with reality is the biggest the biggest thing. Also, some people who are schizophrenic have more depressive symptoms, so they get depressed and they don't want to move around. And then some people are a little more manic and more active when they have more like hallucinations and that sort of thing. Um, yeah, but I do know that if someone's not kind of in touch with reality, that's when you need to start, delusions. Those are the kind of the only ways you can tell.
Would
Other than that, people can at least mask it enough.
for how long and how good of a mask can they put up before it starts to crack?
I think once someone has that psychotic break, or, gets to that point, that's when yeah, when you get to that point, it's hard to kind of come back as far as feeling like you don't have any kind of mental illness.
Would you advise people to stay in those relationships once it's been discovered there's some serious mental health issues?
Um,
You run somebody's chart and it confirms their partner is, you know, cuckoo. And they ask you, well, Amy, what should I do? If the chart tells me my partner is not well, what should I do? What are you going to tell her?
well, some people can be treated well with medication, and like I said, the majority of people who are have these issues aren't violent.
Okay.
So I would say it depends on the severity, how compliant they are with their treatment, how self-aware they are with things. When they know they're starting to get symptoms, they can recognize it, that sort of thing. I would hate to cancel somebody for something that they were trying their best to control. I don't think that person would necessarily be in danger, but you do have to be aware, like, this is what you're dealing with,
But
you know.
is violence always on the horizon though? Could that always be an issue? The violence, even if they never.
Yeah.
Okay.
Probably so. Yeah, I would say so, because you never know what kind of, commands or voices someone's going to start hearing.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Usually the people have the same kind of delusions, like they'll hear voices, or they'll think they'll see things, but usually what it is will stay the same. Like someone's out to get me, and then they'll have a break about that. Then they might take medication, and then they have their next break. It will probably be the same thing. Like someone's out to get me. There are cameras all over my house. People are watching me. You know what I mean? That sort of thing.
And speaking of dark souls and dark entities, okay, I have a I have an opinion. I think the average practitioner doesn't have anything to worry about because I'm like, you're not that important. That's my take on it. But when you hear this
Right?
conversation come up, what do you think
About, I'm sorry.
about the issues with summoning certain spirits that may attach to you and all? I'm to the point where I don't think most people are that important, for them to
Right.
really latch on to you. But what's your opinion on that?
You know, is I don't know about that. It's hard to say, but yeah, I kind of agree with you that you know it, I don't think most people are being demonically possessed. Let's just
Okay.
say that.
Okay. Did, where would you say that happens more often than not?
Hmm. I think I think when people are into that realm,
Okay.
open to those energies coming up,
Mm-hmm.
that's when it can, I think, can possibly happen. That's what I was saying with her. I do feel like it was some level of evil, like, you know, stuff happening, but I wouldn't say like, oh, she was possessed by the devil and that's why she did what she did. I think she was open to that energy and that evil energy, and that I mean, she would intentionally hurt people. You know what I mean? Like, this is a past behavior. So she was open to that low vibrational energy already. So I think it's when you get to that point that it can kind of happen.
So you're saying one can be spiritually predisposed to that.
I think if you open yourself up to those energies and you're doing like spells on people and calling in, you know, demons, so to speak, or dark entities, whatever you want to say, I do think you're more open to them influencing your vibration.
Um, I, I have a question. Do you think spiritual attacks amongst practitioners against each other happen more often than not? I ask you that because I've been on YouTube for a long time and I've seen women actually turn the camera on, light the candle with someone's name on it, put the independent. I've seen it all, and I curse you and your family. They run down the list of their family members' names, and I'm like, these supposed to be, practitioners, and they're going at each other. I've seen this.
Hmm.
Have you seen? Have you seen it? What are your thoughts? Like I said, I see more practitioners go against each other as opposed to them pick on non-practitioners per se.
Yeah, well, two things to that. Yeah, I have seen it in the way that you're saying, where we're going to put a spell on you, that sort of thing. I've never done anything like that. I don't know how it really works. I stay away from all that. But I will say, with this specific person we're talking about, the two times that I did speak out on her, like when I posted the screenshot and said what I said in 2019, there was, I think, two different times I said something. Both times within like 2 hours of that happening, I threw up out of nowhere.
Oh,
Real talk.
oh, that's not good.
Seriously. But then when people would say she has spells on you, I'd be like, whatever, like she's not that powerful. She can't, you know what I mean? Like, I'm not worried about it. But I mean, yeah, that did happen. So as much as I don't want to believe in spells and things like that, I have to say that happened. The other piece, yeah, I feel like there's a lot of competition
Okay.
and a lot of insecurity in the spiritual realm or community.
Is that a natural thing, or has social media kind of exasperated it to the point where it's become a popularity contest?
I feel like it's social media and then people who are already like kind of, come from a place of lack
Okay.
or insecurity. Yeah. But yeah, social media definitely exacerbates it. 100%.
During that dark period for you, what was your resolve? I'm sure at some point you thought about giving up, you thought about quitting, but you didn't. And what do you credit that to?
Probably how much work I'd done before, that happened and how I built everything up. I was just like, I'm not going to let this destroy me or what I've done.
Mhm.
I'm going to double down as far as I'm going to work harder. I'm going to get more reviews. I'm going to counter this with good. Does that make like working harder,
Yeah.
doing more,
Okay.
putting better content out? I was gonna save my business, and that's I was gonna do what I had to do. So I really doubled down hard after that happened.
What's
I
the
mean,
major?
it improved my business
Okay.
because she gave me, I mean, if I have to say, because without that pressure, I wouldn't have implemented a lot of things I have now that, actually have helped me. I would have never gotten on TikTok,
Okay.
these sorts of things. I probably would have been more complacent. But I just knew I had to branch out on Twitter and do different things and diversify but I just knew I was like, I'm just not gonna let this, take me down. I've been doing this for 7 years and I'm gonna keep doing it. That was just my mentality.
So that was pretty much your trial by fire. You feel like you've been through it now. Nothing, anything after that is nothing to you. Is that how you feel now moving forward?
Yeah, and it happened again, a pretty bad one in 2021. But the first one I think is probably the hardest.
Okay.
And yeah, that one was hard. I would say the 2021 that she did was tougher. But yeah, now I don't care.
Okay.
Like I don't care at all
Um.
because no one can say anything they haven't already said.
Right.
And there's no reason for me to hold back because people on Twitter will literally take anything you say
Okay.
and make it something it's not. You know what I mean? Or be negative or reach
Gotcha.
or whatever.
How do you feel about certain practitioners that just come out of the blue and then all of a sudden they're just like all over the place? Like I'm not gonna name names, but there's one lady I never heard of 2 3 years ago. Now all of a sudden everyone puts her name in my chat. Well, did you check out what she said? Did you? I don't give.
Bella,
Yeah, I didn't want to do
she's
it.
fake. She's fake, in my opinion, allegedly.
Okay, okay. I didn't want to do it, but you are who you are. So, um,
I know these things.
okay. What what flags or inconsistencies do you see that lead you to that opinion?
Just honestly, I can just look at her and tell. I mean, I can just tell by looking at her and listening to her, and like, she just gives grifter. She gives charlatan. That's to me when I see her. That's what I get. Um, but I know a lot of people believe her and think she's like, wow, but I think she's fake. I
Well,
think honestly, a lot of that stuff is. I think there are people with spiritual gifts for sure, but psychics that aren't, no,
well, the only
they're
reason
not.
I even mention it because I've seen your organic growth. Like I keep eyes on everyone that's where they're at now. For the most part, I can go back 4 or 5 years and be like, I can see the progression. I can see the progression. And it's like with her, I was like, I never heard of her 2 3 years ago. And I'm not the most well versed person in all things, but I keep my eyes and ears to the internet streets, and I'm like, I never heard of this chick. And then it's like one reading off one major case, all of a sudden they're all over the place, and I'm just like, nah. But that's just my opinion. So I didn't.
Yeah,
I,
no, I'm the same. I think she's, yeah, no, I'm
okay.
not. I just keep it scrolling when I see her until I'm on my way.
Right. What's the major takeaway that that you want people to take to learn from this, or get gather from this? Because you're gonna have one faction of people say, you know what, that's just what black women do, and then you're gonna have another faction of people say, well, that's what those evil practitioners do. There's so many different sectors of people that are going to have their own opinions about this. What could you tell all of them? You know, if you were to sit down and talk to them and say, well, that's not how it is, or what would you say?
I would say be discerning about who you listen to, because people who have these platforms are influential, and they might, they can influence you sometimes more than you think. They can really get you, thinking something. So I would say be discerning, because you don't want to follow someone who's, one, not real, who's just putting out whatever,
Mm-hmm.
and you're coming from a genuine place. You don't want to follow someone who's fake. You don't want to follow someone who has bad intentions. You don't want to follow someone who's mentally ill. So being discerning is the biggest thing, and the only way to do that is to really kind of educate yourself a little bit.
But do you think the average person wants to be told, wants to be led, wants to follow, especially those that are practitioners?
I I always advocate for people to kind of do things for themselves instead of blindly following someone.
Okay.
It kind of even makes me uncomfortable when people are like, you know everything. I'm like, no, I don't. Trust me. Like, I'm wrong sometimes. Like, I don't. That makes me uncomfortable. So, but I think some people just blindly follow, people because they think they're, like this person we just talked about, Sloan Bella. They think they're just amazing. They miss these red flags
Okay.
because they idealize the person too much.
Okay. So that does speak to the average person wants to be led and told what to do and what to believe in.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah,
Um,
yeah. I can see that. Yeah.
Before I let you go, you got an app.
Okay.
The app is dope, but I haven't figured out the settings because I have to actually go into the app to get my everyday updates. So I'm working on that part. But you've been busy. Please tell us what all you've been up to.
Yeah, so I have an app out. It's called Sign, Sine, and I've been working on that. Doing my astrology readings. I've been doing a newsletter lately, so keeping up with that, keeping my audience informed of all the upcoming astrological events. Um, what else have I been doing? Yeah, that's mainly what I've been up to.
Um, any events we should be on the lookout for, or does the average person put more onus on events? Because I like a week before the eclipse, people are losing their minds. Like I personally am just like, you know what, just let the sheep be sheep. But um, I don't know what how do you see in that?
Um, yeah, there was definitely a lot of hype. And this is the thing. So a lot of astrologers will hype something up or put fear behind it because that gets them more attention.
Okay.
So that's kind of, I feel like people fearmonger because it drives traffic, it drives engagement, it gets people talking.
You think
That's part of it.
do you think part of that is like energy vampirism to a certain extent? They get off on that because that's the only way I can really look at it. Like, why would you make people worry unnecessarily? Like, that's, stress causes all types of physical ailments to people. Why would you want somebody to do that to themselves? That is how I'm. To me, it
Yeah.
just seems like energy vampirism.
Yeah, I just don't think they care. I think they're just don't care about other people. They're not
Okay.
worried about helping them or making them feel uplifted or inspiring them. They're just, there to be in that position of authority, so to speak, I feel like.
When events are upon us, red moon, blue moon, pink stars, yellow, whatever. What should the average person? How should they use that to their benefit if they're a non-practitioner?
Um, just being aware, like at the full moon, things are probably going to be a little more hectic. And,
Okay.
you know, if you have goals to set, doing so at the new moon is best. But I don't really like. I'm not the type of person that does specific things at the like. I don't do rituals or anything like that. But just being aware of the energy, I think, is just kind of helpful. Knowing, you know, when things are going to be more, when you should be more, like the dark moon, rest, reflect, kind of don't start anything new, kind of just being in flow with the energy,
Okay.
I would say.
Okay.
Yeah.
Awesome. Where can the people reach you for consultations, all that good stuff? Where can they find you for all the?
Starheal.com, STARHEAL.com.
All right. Okay. Once again, this is Star Hill, aka Amy.
Yes,
thank you for
Amy. Of
thank you for coming through. Yeah,
course.
yeah, yeah. I seen the chat. I want to talk about it. Say less. So,
And then I didn't know. Yeah, I was like, I saw it. I was like, I had to come on there.
well, you know,
Thank
before I
you.
let no, anytime before I let you go, do you think the general consensus? Because I've seen other content creators cover this, and it's like they're giving her a pass. Is that what you're seeing
Yeah,
as well? Okay,
absolutely.
okay, okay.
Absolutely.
And that's part of the problem, I believe. But
And I
okay,
just want to mention before I go, I
yeah.
did some research. So, all the people that are saying that it's postpartum psychosis, I did the research. I think it was, hold on, I wrote it down. I want to say this right, so I'm going to pull it out. 3 out of 1,000 births are postpartum psychosis. There will be. Out of those 3 out of 1,000, only 1 to 4% result in killing. So that would mean also there is nothing on the internet that says postpartum lasts after, I think the longest I saw was 6 weeks, not 9 months. So if you just go by the statistics, the chances of her having a postpartum psychotic break are to be 0.0002.
So when they
So I just
use,
want to throw that out there.
I appreciate that. So when they use that phrase or term, what is the actual issue that they're going through that they're using it under PP postpartum? Yeah, PPP or PPD.
Well, I don't know too much about this, but I guess it's when, you know, a psychotic break happens because of a woman's change in hormones.
Okay.
And it usually pretty rapidly, most of the time, 3 to 10 days after they give birth, not 9 months.
Okay.
And like, but even if it were to happen 9 months, the likelihood of that being what caused this is very low.
That's
So,
dope.
and I know people came at me and unfollowed me because I said, you know, that was an excuse. And they're like, no, no, no. But they need to go to Daddy Google and just do your own research. That's all I can say. Do your own research. It's
Yeah.
out there.
Well, I appreciate that. I appreciate you. I appreciate your time. Amy, I know you got stuff to do because you're always on the go. Like you don't slow down for nothing. And yeah. So once again, thank you for
True.
coming through. Thank you. Thank you.
Absolutely. Thank you for having me. It was good seeing you again.
Same here. Enjoy the rest of your day, hun.
Thanks.
All right. That's the astrology homie, Amy, aka Starheal. You got beef with her. She'll clap back at you. She ain't no punk. So with that being said, thank all y'all for coming through. I gotta go to the gym. I got beat up pretty bad yesterday at the track meet. Track meet was awesome. Our kids did awesome, but it was long and grueling, and I was hurting pretty bad yesterday. So with that being said, I'm gonna get out of here, and hopefully I'll try to come back in a couple hours. Y'all have a good one. Peace.